Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Story number 1. Soldiers don't win wars, food does. Written by Incrediblest Ha. An army marches on its stomach. A famous human general. Humans, the weakest species relative to its size. Administrators and architects bar none, and masters of nature and war. That last title seems the most odd. Humans are weak, their bodies frail, their strength pathetic. So how can it be that these little mammals from Sol 3 have managed to become masters of war? Logistics. The first time we heard it, we were confused. What does administration and industry have to do with the strength of a soldier in wartime? Besides, of course, providing them with the arms needed. We had our war cardinals, whose job it was to make sure supplies arrived to our allies, and holy spy masters, to hinder supplies from arriving to the enemy. But the individual strength of a soldier mattered far more than supplies. Most of our soldiers fought with texels and were clad in great armor. Plasma and kinetic weapons could not penetrate this armor, and thus melee was the most effective option. This is why humans are so woefully outmatched, or so it seemed. When the warrior pope called people of the Faveni pathetic to war, it seemed to be an easy and righteous victory. We were mistaken. When the humans caught wind of what was happening, instead of attempting to launch a preemptive strike, they waited. The humans, renowned for their architecture, redesigned their planets to be massive kill zones, with wastelands where there were previously lush green fields. They had hid mines, readied artillery, and prepared the fleet. The human fleet was brutal, quick, and efficient. The only way we beat it was by sheer numbers. Still, the human fleet bothered our vessels, and many transports were intercepted. What is notable is that human ships were always high-tech, repaired, ready, and loaded. They were never caught off guard. We pushed through human space with apparent ease, and was until we hit the human planet Nova Lothangia. There were fortifications so great it shocked our commanders. However, this was not our greatest problem. The human fleet, which had appeared weak, had appeared in full force. Our transports, which due to the vast swaths of territory we took, already had to travel for a long time, were now also harassed by human vessels. The unprotected industry and agri-worlds near the former human Faveni border were raided, looted, and erased. This was, however, not the only issue that we were facing. Besides the massive fortifications, raided supply lines, and crumbling economy, we were facing another foe, our own conquered populace. The humans managed to incite rebellions against nations that we'd previously conquered to devastating effect. Key worlds like Spolvelian, Ravani, and Vorinio were swiftly thrown into chaos and disorder. We could crush these rebellions, yes, but it did affect our logistics, which were already a mess. However, the humans would still fall, after all. We held a massive advantage, our melee troops. The humans were weak and dishonorable, and they would welcome the reign of warrior Pope Trakastiki, the 9,546,456. So instead of actually facing us, they built fortifications so great, cut off our supply lines with so much prejudice, and waited so long. We ended up starving. There, the 5th Crusading chapter was weak, starving, and no match for the humans. Regular guns could not penetrate great armor, but field cannons could. Artillery did their job, and soon we had to surrender. Our economy was crumbling, and humanity had lost only their smallest, least productive systems. We lost an entire bishopric chapter, and the humans took minimal casualties. The humans swiftly reconquered the lost systems, and our great nation would eventually fall to the hordes of rebellious subjects and constant human raiding. The humans always were ready due to their superior intelligence, were always supplied due to their superior logistics, and were always in better position due to their superior architecture. City's account of the First Humanitas War. End of story. Story number 2. S.A.R. Written by Shock Lineart. Catra woke to the sound of digging. She didn't actually know how long it had been. Days, she knew that. But beyond that, the shattered remains of what had once been her home shifted and creaked, and then a shaft of light, real light, from the sun pierced the darkness. She had been found. Her elation was short-lived as the unmistakable silhouette of a human eclipsed the light. Those damned humans! Talks must have broken down and war had broken out. As if they took her, well, death was probably the least of her concerns. Catra did, however, take a small amount of comfort in the human's rage at her passing out right as the last piece of rubble was removed. The human had been denied their prize, at least. No, stay with me, ma'am! God damn it! Jenkins was not having a good day. He was supposed to be search and rescue, damn it, not search and recovery. He'd pulled 7 Vox from the disaster that had once been a bustling village, and the triage tent had slapped a black label on every single one. Dead. But there was value in recovering the deceased. Hopefully, it would at least give this lady's family, should any remain, some sense of closure. Jenkins carefully loaded the Vox lady onto a stretcher and, with the help of another S.A.R. member, made his way towards the triage tent. Jenkins had pinged a message from Starside. "Jenkins, sir." "Good morning, Jenkins," replied a smooth but obviously robotic voice. It was Benny, the AI assigned to the group. Benny continued, "Remember how you asked me just what the feck happened here? I think I have an answer. I've been in contact with my Vox counterpart, and we have made the following observations." "Okay." Jenkins could barely remember anything before 4 hours ago, but let Benny prattle on. "Observation. The landscape around this area seems to be composed of calcified remains of billions of microscopic organisms. In layman's term, an extraterrestrial variant of limestone. Observation. The rain on this world is ever so slightly acidic. Observation. The debris field is significantly smaller, around 30%, than the mountain that once stood over this village would suggest. Hypothesis. Over many years, the rain carved out a massive cavern system in a nearby mountain. Well, what was once a mountain anyway? This cavern grew unnoticed or unheeded until the mountain's structural integrity was compromised and the entire thing collapsed in a massive landslide. That's horrible. I know, and I agree. Anyway, now I'll let you get back to your work. Ta-ta." And with that, Benny disconnected, and Jenkins was left alone with his thoughts once more. At least now, they were at the triage tent. The Vox doctor descended on the patient, still lying, unmoving, on the stretcher. 1 week ago, talks were going poorly. Ambassadors from Humanity and the Vox had been trying to hammer out an agreement on mineral rights in the system, but a mutual lack of trust was once again getting in the way. Things were going so badly, it looked like it might boil over into a trade war, if not an out-and-out conflict. Part of the reason for the distrust was historical. Both the Vox and Humanity had been screwed over multiple times, and neither was particularly keen on letting it happen again. The Vox ambassador had just been ready to tear into a human counterpart when an aide had whispered in her ear and showed her a report. The Vox ambassador had then turned to a very unhealthy color, as the blood had drained from her face. That doesn't look good. What's wrong, Ambassador?" The human ambassador had queried. "We'll have to leave things here for now. A mountain has somehow collapsed and buried the largest village on one of our colonies," the Vox had replied. "Okay, lead the way. Everyone pack it up. Get ready to move." Your assistance is not required. This is strictly an internal, with all due respect, Ambassador. Stuff it," the human had replied. "The longer we stick around talking, the more of you people die. I know it, you know it. We have a search and rescue team attached to our fleet. If nothing else, it'll be more hands available. Your people are in need, and Humanity intends to answer." The Vox looked somewhat taken aback, but relented. "Fine, let's go." "This is an adjustable wrench," the chief engineer had cried to his audience. "Turn the screw to, adjust its size appropriately. And remember, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. Also, in your kit is a roll of duct tape and a can of WD-40. If it's loose and shouldn't be, tighten it. And if it's moving and it shouldn't, duct tape it. If it's not moving and it should be, WD-40. This concludes the crash course in human engineering systems. Get to it. If we were going to make this work, extreme measures were going to have to be taken. Indeed, the call had gone out and everyone who wasn't involved in actually flying the ships or part of S.A.R. had been press-ganged into engineering. This exact scene was playing out in every human ship, and likely something similar in every Vox ship as well. The combined human Vox fleet was going to push their ships to their absolute limits to cut down on travel time as much as possible. The chief engineer even put his hat over the thermal readout screen, so nobody would fret about just how far into the red they were pushing things. And it had worked. The overlapping warp fields and redlining the engines had pushed the combined fleet to a record-shattering and mind-melting 2,500 C. But while FTL communications were near instant, FTL travel was much slower. It had taken a full week to cross the 50-ish light-years to Vox planet. Now, Jenkins wiped the sweat from his brow and drained a water bottle as the doctor worked. The S.A.R. specialist looked up in a rough direction of the fleet. If he had had a thermal scope, he suspected that it would look as though a second star had appeared in the system. Indeed, as soon as the fleet entered normal space, they had frantically deployed every radiator they had, and in short order said radiators glowed dully. Jenkins strongly doubted that any of the ships would ever exceed 10C under their own power again. They definitely would need a tow home. A sound made Jenkins turn around. It was the doctor applying the triage sticker to the lady. Yellow, in need of care, but would probably live. Jenkins smiled to himself. He'd done it. He had saved her life. Jenkins grabbed an entry stretcher and headed back out to look for more survivors. His day had just gotten a little bit better. End of story. The algorithm reckons you should be watching this video next, and I recommend that you should be always watching my video. So, click with energy! And yes, clicking that does help the channel. Thank you very much. I just want to give a quick thanks to the Tier 5 patrons and channel members. Alithia, Barky, Fudic Yol, Cam Maxwell, Caspar Onholtz, White Van 420, Lord Asrakal, Arcadian, and Oakfield.